As the data analyst or data scientist, learning statistics is really important since it is the backbone of data analysis and also the prerequisite for learning advanced topics in machine learning and data science. Therefore, in this video, we are going to focus on the most crucial topics of statistics that each data analyst or data scientist should learn. By learning these concepts, which we cover on our YouTube channels, you can be sure of your statistical knowledge. We categorize all the topics into 8 categories, as you can see, ranging from the descriptive analysis to the tools which you need. Let's start with descriptive analysis and see what should you learn in these categories for your statistics. The descriptive analysis is the initial steps of your learning, and this is really important. We consider 3 important topics for the descriptive analysis. You should learn 2 types of measure, the central tendency and dispersion measure, and we have different measures in these 2 categories. You may have heard some of them are such as average, standard deviation, sum, and in more advanced we have range or quartile and other things. You have to learn these 2 measures, and in addition to these measures you have to learn different methods for EDA, exploratory data analysis. All these 3 together are crucial in the initial steps of each data science or data analyst project, since you need to understand the data. So the descriptive concepts for statistics help you for data understanding, and you should learn these 3 concepts. After learning descriptive category of your statistics, it's time to get through the probability. For the probability, you should learn the concept of random variables and of course the conditional probability, which is the backbone of some important methods in data science and data analysis, such as naive Bayes method or association rule. And after learning that, you should learn the important distributions, their characteristics, their formula. For example, how our data treats when it has the specific distribution. After learning these 2 concepts, it's time to learn the estimation. What is estimation in the statistics? And you have to learn 2 types of estimation, the point estimation and the interval estimation. A lot of softwares and a lot of programming language which you use for fitting different models on your data set gives you different estimation after fitting those kinds of methods on your model. So you have to understand what is the concept of estimation and how you can interpret the specific estimation for your data. After learning these 3 concepts, we have the important categories of hypotheses for your statistics. This is really important because you need it in different stages of your data analysis project. We have covered this concept in our YouTube channels and we have provided numerous topics for hypothesis. You can watch those movies. First of all, what is the concept of hypothesis? What is application of hypothesis when we can have different hypotheses and the topics like this? After that, you should learn the concept of p-value. P-value, such as the estimation that I told you, is the famous output of numerous statistical software and programming language. You should know how you can interpret the p-value. and based on that how you can decide whether to reject or accept your hypothesis. After that, you should learn different types of hypotheses, from one sample, two sample, ANOVA, goodness of fit, and different hypotheses which we have for deciding in terms of the coefficients of your variables. If you are not familiar with these concepts, I recommend you to watch the video that we have for 16 important hypotheses which each data analyst should know. After learning hypotheses, it's time to talk about the multivariate analysis. Multivariate analysis, it's really the comprehensive topic, and we have the separate box just for multivariate analysis. However, in learning statistics for data analysts and data scientists, you do not need to go through all the concepts from the initial steps. By progressing in your roadmap in what career that you are working in, you can improve your knowledge. But for the start, you should learn these three concepts: principal components, also known as the PCA, factor analysis, and outlier detection. Principal components and factor analysis are really important. You should know what is principal components in order to understand the logic and concepts behind the principal components. You should have the basic knowledge of linear algebra. And after learning principal components and its application, you should learn factor analysis. When we use principal components and when we use factor analysis, what are the disadvantages of principal components that sometimes force us to use factor analysis? When you are working with different model of regressions, sometimes for deleting some actually problems and get rid of them, such as multicollinearity, you need to know these concepts. So these concepts which we have for multivariate analysis help you in other stages of your analysis. And after that, we have the concept of outlier detection. Outlier detection is more complicated than just a simple box plot which you see in most projects. You should know what is outlier detection in both dimension of dependent and independent variable, and when should you investigate both of them, and of course how you can analyze outlier detection by considering some variables simultaneously, because sometimes the separate variable does not have any outlier. However, when it comes with other variables, maybe the specific records should be considered as the outlier detection. So this is the real important concepts. After learning these concepts, it's time to talk about the regression. Regression is really important and help you to understand different models of regressions if you are working with regression models, and of course when you are following your roadmap of data science and you are learning different classification methods, since you can use some of them for the regression purpose, at that step you have the good knowledge of regression. For here, you should learn simple linear regression, multiple regression, non-linear regression, and different hypotheses which we have for regression. So for understanding the hypothesis for regressions, you need first to understand the concepts of hypothesis. That's why we put the hypothesis before regression. And after that, the concept of evaluation and model selection, how you can detect whether to choose the nonlinear regression or multiple regression, or even more complicated, should you consider the interaction between different variables, or which degrees should you consider for your problems when you are applying the regression. And after that, you should learn different assumptions of regression, and you should know how you can investigate the adequacy of regression in terms of different concepts, in terms of residuals, in terms of multicollinearity, or other topics. And at the last stage, you have to learn how you can improve your models. Imagine that you have a regressions and you do all the steps, and now you want to improve your models. You should know the different steps which are crucial in order to improve your regression models in terms of the accuracy, or in terms of the interpretability which you need for your project. After the regression, you need to learn the time series. Time series is important since the time is the indispensable part of each project. Don't worry, we have considered a separate video for time series in which you can learn all the concepts of time series in just 1 hour. I highly recommend you to watch the time series video that can help you to understand all these concepts just in 1 hour. Here we should learn different assumptions, the ACF, PACF, its different hypotheses which you have for time series, what is the concept of stationary in time series, and the ARMA models, ARIMA models, SARIMA models. These are three some kind of traditional models for time series. And after that, you can learn the advanced models. I do not recommend to focus on advanced model in this stage, and this would be the topic when you want to expand your knowledge of time series and you have the knowledge of deep learning models, because for the advanced model of time series we need the knowledge of deep learning, since we have some powerful time series models that are working based on deep learning concepts. And after that, you should learn monitoring and evaluation model. Time series in this step just need the basic of time series. And for advanced time series, you should follow your path in terms of learning deep learnings and other concepts, and then come back to time series in order to expand your knowledge. After learning all the concepts of statistics, it's time to talk about the tools and what should we learn for the tools for statistics, for data analysts and data scientists. If you are working as a data scientist or you are in the path of learning concepts for being a data science, you should have learned one of these programming language, Python or R. So, if you are in that path, I recommend you to implement all these concepts in the language that you know until now. If you are a Python programmer and you are familiar with Python language, you can easily search for these concepts and in their implementation on the Python. And in the future, in your path of your career, you can learn other programming language too. But in this stage, you do not need to learn a new language. Or similarly, if you are working with the R language, you can implement all these concepts in R. No difference which language you are choosing for the implementation. But if you are in the elementary step of your learning and you do not have any knowledge of programming language, I recommend you to choose one of these software, Minitab or JMP, for implementing these concepts. Because I don't want you to spend so much time on learning a new language, and just I want to force you to learn the concepts and see different implementations. So by learning Minitab and JMP, which do not require any prior knowledge for coding, you can easily implement this concept in these two languages. We have provided different tutorials for Minitab and JMP. You can get familiar with that. So in this tutorial, just we wanted to focus on different concepts of statistics that each data analyst and data scientist should learn and understand their concepts in order to implement on their datasets.